Joining me is Australia's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan of The Australian, who's also written inspiring books on Christianity, which I highly recommend again. Greg Sheridan, thank you for your time. Now, no doubt you were sitting there like me watching the soccer at 3 a.m, go Holland 2-0, and you see players making political statements. Do you think, shut up, or these are people of character?
So did Holland win, Andrew, or did they lose? That's my question to you.
I forgot to wear my orange tie.
I think there's a tremendous amount of performative rank hypocrisy about all this sports preening lately. So I think the Iranian football team is very brave. They're protesting against their own government, and it is a government of real injustice. With Qatar, I'm inclined to think, if these sports people feel so profoundly moved in their guts by these convictions, why did they go there? How about sacrificing a paycheck? Boycott the whole contest, like so many Australian athletes did when Moscow held the Olympic Games in 1980. But I mean, if you go to someone else's country and you know all the laws before you go there, not every country has to be exactly the same. Qatar actually has liberalised and changed tremendously over the last 40 years. It's not the same as us, but, not every country in the world has to be exactly the same all the time. And so now, given the standard these sportsmen have set, I presume none of them will ever engage in any sports contest with the People's Republic of China ever again, because China makes Qatar look like, a Girl Scout jamboree when it comes to human rights. I mean, there just seems to be so much hypocrisy and cant. I mean, sportsmen are not allowed to have certain views. Israel Folau lost his whole career because he had views. I didn't agree with all of his views, but, he's banned and banished and never to be allowed to speak again. That's how much we believe in freedom of conscience. Andrew Thorburn sacked from Essendon. Sportsmen are citizens. They have every right to express their point of view. I don't see why they're doing it on the football field, though. If they want to hire a town hall and have a meeting and, campaign about, Gulf foreign policy or something, well, good luck to them.
Well, I'm also struck by the fact that I think the working conditions are terrible, and actually, you've got to say that the pressure from the sports has forced Qatar to announce certain reforms. So, I mean, that is good. But on the other hand, you have to think, so many of these people from the subcontinent are dying in Qatar in these harsh conditions. What must conditions in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh be, and Sri Lanka, that they still thought that going to Qatar was a better deal? And I think we've got to be conscious of that as well. But Infantino, his claim there that the West has no right to lecture Qatar on human rights given its own history, we should be apologising for 3,000 years, that strikes me as right over the top.
Well, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I mean, every day, Andrew, I'm just completely astonished that reality keeps outpacing satire. I mean, you couldn't make it up. You couldn't make up a character so fatuous and ridiculous that in order to justify a self-interested, financially beneficial decision by his own organisation, he denounces 3,000 years of European history. And what particular event did he have in mind in 900 BC that today's Europeans should be apologising for? And of course, what he's done is not only play the ridiculous anti-Western card, but he's made a cack-handed, incompetent, foolish, almost unspeakably obtuse effort to play identity politics. Because, nothing is worse in the West today than identity politics. And the central proposition of identity politics is that certain people are good because of who their genetic ancestors were, and certain people are bad because of who their genetic ancestors were. Whereas the central tenet of liberalism and human rights, which we've inherited from the Jewish and Christian traditions, is that individual human beings are good and bad depending on the moral choices they make. And each of them has a divine destiny and a soul and a relationship with the immortal God, and they can choose their own moral destiny. This nincompoop from FIFA you know, claims that Europeans have got to be guilty of something from 900 BC. It's just, I'm aghast.
Oh, it's just terrible. It's the whole white guilt thing. I know,
Yeah.
like we can't say anything to China because at least we've gone through the process of self-criticism and improvement, etc., etc. A very painful process. And I think if you can't criticise, no one, you know, you're down to the lowest common denominator. I think it's terrible. I don't know. Greg Sheridan, thank you so much indeed for your time.